Okay, welcome back. Time for a new build. So today, I'm going to be working on the MiniArt US Tow Truck G506. Now, have not done a MiniArt kit on the channel previously, and as you can see, this is 1/35th scale. MiniArt is one of the, I guess you would consider the enthusiast model companies, along with like TACOM, Ryefield, Trumpeter, all of those, principally releasing kits in the 1/35th scale, which is most common for the military people, and kits that typically are higher parts count but highly detailed and should go together quite well. Now, the initial look at the kit instantly sold me. You know, it's like an old style work truck. I like the older style cabs, you know, from like the 40s, late 30s, 40s. Got a nice crane on the back, so that's pretty cool. Spare tire hanging out. But the thing that really got me was these dual front tires. So that's cool. So here we go. And around the box, they only show you a few color variations that you could do it in, obviously, and you know, build a kit in whatever colors you want, but a few suggestions, and a nice look at the decal sheet, which has, there we go, quite a few things on there, and that looks to be pretty nice. So we'll get a better look at that when we look inside. Bottom of the box is blank. The reason I'm showing a little bit more of this, again, is because first time doing a MiniArt kit on the channel, and I don't recall if I ever built a MiniArt kit in my past, but here it is now. So looking forward to this. I wanted to do this one particularly because after, if you're not watching this video directly in order of other builds I've done, this is coming right after I did the MPC Ram Chargers Dragster and Advanced Design Transport Truck. Yes, and that kit was a handful because it just did not want to cooperate. But I was pretty happy with what I got at the end. Anyway, I thought after dealing with all the issues with that one, just to get it to go together, I figured let me try something like this, which is going to require, you know, some attention to work with all that detail, but being a newer kit and from a little bit, let's say, upmarket in terms of what you expect in quality, should go together nicely. So first thing we'll look at here, we have some instructions, and we have our color and painting guides. What is really nice here is they list, if you want to build specific to what they are depicting, the colors, and from the different paint companies. I will be using Tamiya, and you know, some of my Testors for other colors, but there you go. Parts layout, you notice we do get some photo etch with this one, and then as always, building a model is building a model. Instructions laid out step by step. One thing that did catch my eye right away with this, you notice there is photo etch to bend for the bumpers on the back of the chassis, but they give you a mold block to fold the photo etch around to get that shape, and more importantly, be able to hopefully replicate it smoothly from one side to the other. So that looks pretty good, and you can see it is, as you would expect with a kit like this, it is a very thoroughly detailed four-wheel drive under there, engine, And then moving in, we have a multi-piece cab with interior piece, exterior shell. That is pretty cool. Same with the doors. The doors are separate. They are not hinged, but you can build them open or closed. And then we go piecing the cab to the body. Now we have, because there are several options as to how you choose to do the tires, so you have the different instructions for how to build those up. Yes, the tires are plastic. They are molded on the parts trees. They are not the rubber slash vinyl slash whatever compounds you find, such as in AMT, Revell, Monogram, Tamiya, you know, your typical model car kits. So we'll see how that goes. It is really first time I'll be working with that. And we see here, just from the diagram, you can tell there's a lot of nice engine detail in there. And then finishing that up, going to the bed. And then mounting our wheels and tires. And last but not least, building up that crane, which looks like a nice detailed assembly as well. And then attaching it, and that will call it a day. So, as you can see, still in its plastic bag. Haven't opened this because I wanted to show this to you. From what I've seen on other channels for other MiniArt builds, this is typical. They just give you one big bag with everything shoved in there. I do have another MiniArt kit that I have not built yet, and that is packed the same way as well. So let me open up these bags. I'm going to take a quick break, and then we'll look at the plastic. Alrighty. Alright, so we got the plastic laid out. Before we delve into that, I'm going to look at some of the goodies. So we get a little folder with the photo etch in there. I already took it out of there, but just to protect it. And it is wrapped with a plastic film, but you can see, and this is where the photo etch comes in for doing the grill. You know, really nice little detail pieces, and especially at this 1/35th scale, these things cannot be accurately reproduced in scale in plastic, so they go with the photo etch. No big deal. It does take a little bit of extra concern working with it because it is fragile, and you will have to keep in mind that to attach those pieces to the kit, you will need some good old cyanoacrylate super glue of whatever brand you choose to use. So there we go. We have some clear parts. I'm going to keep this in the bag. Two-piece windshield. There we go. Door glass, if we choose to put it in. Rear window, headlights, and some nifty decals in there. Those are looking pretty good. All right, so we'll start getting into the plastic. And you can see on this first, this is the biggest sprue in the kit, but just taking a closer look at it, you know, you can see, like so many of these 1/35th scale kits, like the Mark V British tank and the Panther G that I did from Bang and Ryefield respectively. You know, these molds are really beautiful that they put in these kits, and you know, some of it is very delicate and fragile, like you can see with that piece, but always, you know, look at this transfer case here, the mold detail is always very nice with the axles, all good stuff. Here we have the sides of the hood, so look at, even has the Chevrolet lettering molded right in there. All nice stuff. Here is, this would be the spare tire. We'll look at the sprues for the tires in a moment. So we get that. And here we go. We get 4 sprues for the tires. Now, as I said, I have not done plastic tires for wheels. You may be wondering, why did they mold the tires in plastic? Among the enthusiast community, there is the pretty decisive opinion that the mold detail you can get by doing the tires in plastic is far superior than doing them in the rubber slash vinyl slash whatever compounds they use for the tires. And these same people also feel that those tires tend to look toy-like as opposed to doing it this way. Obviously, we need to do some painting here. I wish they had done the wheels separate so we could do the tire and then do the wheel, but that should work out fine. Just have to be a little careful. We get 4 of these sprues right there. Then we get 2 of these, and these have some miscellaneous detail parts, and you can see some of these parts, because of the 130 for the scale, are quite small and delicate, but everything is there. I don't see a parts count on the box for this kit, but I'm guessing it's got to be close to somewhere between 200 and 300 pieces, again, which is typical for one of these. Here we see those molding blocks for doing the photo etch. That was for those bumper brackets. I believe this is for a front guard. Not quite sure which that one is for, but there we go. And we can see, oh, check this out. Check this out. Look at that dashboard. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit better here. Okay. That's a very nice detail. That's better than the detail I've seen on some 125th or 124th dashboards. Now, you can see next to my finger, again, this is the 130 for the scale, so these parts are small, and it's a small dashboard. Part of that is because of the cab design on this truck, but we'll see that in a moment. Some more little detail pieces, and here we go with the multi-part cab. And one of the things that I enjoy with these kits, if you look at that sprue, there's 0 warp here. Look at that. Everything is straight and true, and that is it's just happiness in front of me. Because you know, really don't foresee any need of wrestling with parts to do this. Everything should go together well. So I'll come back to that one. Now here we go. More detail parts. Again, some of these very fine moldings, but you can see all that nice detail is there. And now we're getting into some of the parts for the bed. This does have, it's a faint grain on it, but it does have a little texture to replicate wood, but I am going to be painting that my body color. I'll talk about colors in a moment. Here's the equipment box for the bed, again with the slats for wood grain type detail. The bed, parts for the crane, and a pretty fragile looking piece there too, but you notice, even though the parts are fragile, you can see the way they molded the sprue here with these nice big runner brackets to protect this part. So if any weight does come on it in the shipping, it rests on those sprue brackets instead of the part itself. So kit design, attention to the details. And here we go. We have a bunch of parts for the engine. In fact, looking at this looks like almost entirely engine parts. That's great. Right on one sprue. I like that. So when build-up time comes for that, only one stop to go. One-stop shopping. And now we have some more of the frame parts. I mean, the crane parts. Ugh. The crane frame parts. Say that 3 times fast. And there we go. We even have, look at that, nice gears for that crane assembly. That is looking good. And then we have our doors, the firewall for the cab, the door interiors. We get a separate windshield frame. Check that out. And then our assorted controls and whatnot. And going back to this, I wanted to show you because this is the frame rail. Well, the two frame rails. So you get an idea of the length of the vehicle. So it's going to be roughly probably about 6.5 inches in length when it is done, right? I counted right? Yes, about 6.5 inches. So it will build to a fairly decent size. Again, it's 1/35th. So you're not going to get some giant thing like you would my the good old AMT dump truck that I did up there. I can get that in frame. There he is. Or that 1/16th bug van, but next to it is the 1/35th hemp tractor that I did from Trumpeter. So you can see how those things compare in scale. So there we go. Now in terms of color, even though they give you a full color guide, I went and I got these two colors. So I'm going to do the scheme I'm looking to replicate here, or get close to, is this. This is almost like a bluish green, almost it's like a Klingon green for you Star Trek people, and the orange. So I wasn't 100% sold on that color, but what I did see is this nice Tamiya medium blue. You can see that, and obviously orange, and I think those will be a pretty good complementary color set. So those will go in. I will not be doing any rattle can spray for this. This will be an airbrush project, so I will be using my handy dandy Works airbrush for this, which is part of the reason why I chose to do this kit. Currently it is in the low 20s outside where I am in New York at the time of this build video, mid-January. So don't really feel like going up there and heating up my garage to do the spray painting. So the only thing I might do in there is primer coat, which I will use my Tamiya Surface Primer L, and as I build, give that a shot. Even though the airbrushing will take a little bit more effort because of the nature of the vehicle. It's not some dressed up, detailed, dream machine. It's a truck. It's a work truck. So even with all the parts, probably going to do quite a bit of assembly, especially for the frame and the drive system and everything before even going to do any painting. So I will be painting in groups of assemblies rather than individual parts and putting them together. So that's the plan. All right, gonna get started with this. So I will say the usual. Thank you for watching. Please do subscribe, like, share, hit the alert button, all that good YouTube stuff, and time to get going. Alrighty. Now, at this point, of course, the highlight of things is this absolutely wonderful chassis assembly, and I could probably sit here for half an hour and just talk about how great this is, not just in terms of its detail, but in terms of its assembly. Now, at this point, I'm gonna start getting into painting, because I think I have assembled as much as I could that would make sense to assemble before doing the painting. But now I feel like I'm at that point where continuing to build would be problematic for painting, so paint's going to go on. Okay, so we are getting to the final stages of the build. As you can see, the mat is empty. Now, right up top there, ding, that is the crane for the bed, which I am just finishing up. I actually have the truck off to the side there on stage right. It is basically done at this point, aside from the side mirror, which I have to attach. But since there's just these few little details left to do, I'm going to get to that and then we'll do a little final build reveal time. But before that, there were just a few things I wanted to point out in the instructions, not to nitpick, but specifically to a point of how important it is to study your instructions. Now, first off, there's nothing wrong with the instructions. The instructions are great. The drawings are very clear. I never had a doubt or a concern as to where I was putting something or a locator, nothing like that. Everything went together beautifully. So really a great kit for building. Where I want to go into point number 2 is the sequence of assembly. And although the individual assembly steps are shown without any doubt, they're very clear, as I said, I did have a few differences of opinion, let's say, on the sequence that was chosen. Now, one of the things I'll start with right to point out is the cab assembly. Now, we're assembling the cab here, the inner cab, firewall, all that detail. Okay, that all looks great. And then we do the windshield, doors, and on it goes to the chassis. But oddly enough, now that you're already mounted to the chassis, it's not until the next page then that we go back and do some of these very delicate details, the windshield wipers, which are photo etch, these inside braces for the windshield, which are also photo etch. I just looked at this and thought, you know, it would have been a lot easier to put those things in when you can hold the cab in your hand versus the whole truck. Because at this point of assembly, even in 1/35th scale, it has a little bit of weight to it. It's got some meat to it because of all the parts and all the detail in there. That is weight, and it's a little difficult to try to do, at least for me, to try to do these, you know, ridiculously tiny photo etch detail parts when you have to consider the weight of something you're holding. Now, I will show you the photo etch fret so that you have an idea of how tiny some of these pieces are. And you got to say, hey, how come they're still on there? But I'll address that in a moment. So these teeny tiny little pieces right here are the windshield wiper clamps. And then we have these little braces. Where'd they go? Here we go. Which is supposed to be the windshield slides, whether you pose it open or closed. Now, obviously, I didn't use them. And reason being, I just found them so ridiculously small to work with. And also, in the final assembly, I don't even know if you're really even going to be able to notice them. I had said in the beginning, I am nowhere near even, I would say, proficient with photo etch. A little bit of simple work, putting it on the kit, fine. I can appreciate the detail it brings. But getting back to build sequence, the other thing that I noticed was a little odd in terms of the assembly. Actually, two more things. Here they show you to do the winch for the front and attach it after the cab is on. This was a very tight working area. Again, I put this on before I attached the cab to the frame, and I found it went much easier. The only one that really had me scratching my head was attaching the bed and this gas fill line. Yeah, it's a great detail part to actually have the fill line coming off the fuel tank to be on the side of the cab there. When I looked at the instructions, I thought that's probably going to be pretty tough to snake in there. I had originally intended to put the bed on, specifically because of my concern for this fuel line, and then attach the cab. But when I was working on the cab, I got so excited with the way it was coming out. I got the cab on and I realized, oops, jumped ahead. So this was a little finicky to get in there. Tweezers, futzing around with it. It would have been much easier to put the bed on first, then the fuel fill line, and then the cab. So that's all. Master Tools L-size chain. I use this because it already has like this rust brown coating to it. The chain that comes with the kit is a very bright silver chain. Nothing wrong with it, but I just figured, while I have a chain that I do not have to paint, I'll just assume use that rather than the very bright chain that I will struggle to paint, because if you've ever painted chain, there are always spots that you miss, and every time the chain moves, you see them. With this chain, it is dark, as you can see against my hand, and I think that works out great. You may notice, and maybe the camera will capture it, this coating is somewhat fragile. As it comes off, you will see some shine underneath it, but to me that just is something that looks like what you would see on a real chain. As it wears and it gets scuffed, you get fresh metal exposed, and that will be shiny. So there you go. Okay, and here we go. It's final build reveal time for the MiniArt US Tow Truck G506 and 1/35 scale. And there we go. All right, I will start off with my usual corny statement. I'm very happy with the way this build came out. No, but in this case, particularly so. You know, when you go to build something and you have a vision as to what you want to do and the final result, and you get not only to where you were, but you get the feeling that you actually got past that a little bit, it feels really good. And in the final presentation here with this, that's how I feel with this. I feel like I was able to get a little bit past even what I had hoped to achieve. Hopefully the kit speaks for itself. You know, I showed the inside page of the instructions with this painting scheme for the kit. I went with that because that's when I originally saw the kit. This is, if you remember from the beginning of the build video, this was the color scheme that was on the cover of the box, and I just fell in love with that. That's why I bought the kit, especially with these dual wheels up front. I just think still that is just so cool. But this is what I wanted to build, and I was able to get there. So very happy with that. That's also, I would say, a good credit to the kit and its overall kit design and ability to assemble it, let's say, because in light of my experience with the MPC Advanced Concept car carrier and dragster, which fought me every single step of the way, this went together in just the way I was hoping to get it together, and as I said, to the final result I had hoped to achieve. Now, that said, is it a challenging kit? Good question. And I say that because challenges can be of different forms. Now, in the MPC kit, for example, the car carrier and the dragster, and I'm not trying to pick on that, I'm just going to refer to that because it is a good example of contrast to what I experienced in the building of this MiniArt kit. The challenge with that MPC kit was basically just getting it together. I mean, forget about, you know, any considerations for doing anything extra with it. Its basic assembly out of the box was problematic, and that was a challenge. Here, the challenge is different. The kit assembles beautifully. I mean, it goes together just so well. everything is keyed, and the locations and everything is just spot on. And absolutely granted, this is a modern kit with modern tooling, so it certainly benefits greatly from that. I don't mean that as comparing apples and oranges to the MPC kit, but I mean it in terms of getting what you see on the box from the box, and you are readily able to do that with this kit. In terms of a challenge, yes, this kit is a challenge, no doubt about that. And the challenge in this kit, though, is in dealing with very small detail parts, dealing with some of the photo etch parts. As I mentioned previously, I even opted to leave some out because photo etch is not really my forte, and at some points I just felt it was more hassle than what it was worth for me. And also I felt that getting to the point where I would use some of those photo etch parts, I probably was going backwards in terms of, curb appeal of the final build. So I just left them off. And looking at the kit, I would say, do you notice anything is missing? No. In its final, I think the only build error I have is on this rear, the hook on the crane here, and that was simply because I miscounted my lengths when I secured the chain, and I was not able to adjust that. I could have, but I was afraid I was going to start breaking stuff, so I just left it the way it is. Whatever. I'm not going to lose any sleep over that. Here is the fuel filler tube that I mentioned, that very tricky to get in there. In terms, going back to challenge, and the fuel filler line is definitely a good example of it. The photo etch is a good example. This is definitely a tweezers kit. If you are not handy with tweezers, proceed with caution. However, that said, because the parts do in fact actually fit together so well, if you have never really worked with tweezers in terms of building a kit, this would be a great entry to practice and pick up on that skill because of its good assembly. So I would not recommend this as a first build, but if you've done a few kits and you're looking to jump into 1/35th scale, or a kit with a lot more detail in it, or just ramp up some of your skills a little bit, or combination of some, none, or all of the above, this is, I would strongly recommend this. It's a great little kit. Not little in terms of parts count, but little in terms of final form. Again, the detail, I can't go on enough about how nicely detailed the kit is, even with leaving off some of those photo etch pieces, which I thought were really nitpicking detail and more frustration than they were worth. Again, to me, I still feel that it builds up to a beautifully detailed kit. Now, in terms of some of the techniques I used, I was able to capture pretty much all of the assembly in the build video, which is what I am hoping to do more and more as I get a little bit better working on camera with these builds. With this, because of the tiny size of the parts, at least at this point, trying to get the camera in close enough to film and do what I needed to do, I just was not able to do it. So that's why in some parts you saw all of a sudden multiple things got assembled. And there was also a time consideration because I did not want this to spill into a second episode. It's getting long enough as it is, so I will leave that at that. Now, in terms of extras, I did do a teeny bit of extra detailing. The Chevrolet logo on the side of the hood panels, that is supposed to be body color. I went ahead with a white gel pen, the same one that I used to letter tires on the MPC Advanced Car Carrier, but I thought, let me try and do it on that lettering, and it came out really nice, and I like that little detail. I talked just prior to this about doing the chain for the winch hook and for the crane hook in the back here. Yes, I was a glutton for punishment on that, opening up those, for scale, those teeny tiny little lengths and actually threading them into these hooks and then closing it back up. You don't have to do that. I gave it a go and I was able to do it, so happy with that. And then of course the other thing is our driver figure, Ed the mechanic here, let's call him. And I will have a separate episode right after this episode, and I'm going to be posting them within minutes of each other, hopefully, so they'll be up there for view together, where I talk about considerations for him and getting him into the build and incorporating him for the final presentation. And I think in final form he looks pretty cool in there, so happy with that. Now again, I do not like to weather and build my vehicles looking all beat up and, you know, run down into the ground, so I did not do a big weathering scheme or anything like that. The only thing I did do, which I showed, was trying to introduce like a wear color on the tires by using that AK rubber black versus the flat black for the tire sidewalls, the gel pen for the hood. So these few little things, but overall, one thing that I did that was a significant departure from other builds I've done is and as you saw, I airbrushed everything with the Tamiya acrylics, and I gotta tell you, very happy with that experience. Spray cans, even if you go with the Rustoleum or Krylons, you know, they can get a little pricey, but the biggest problem I have found is color matching. So when you work on the kit, at least for me, it's inevitable that I have a little area here or there that I need to touch up, and you know, short of spraying some spray paint into a cup and dabbing it and trying to brush it on, you're gonna have a real challenge to get the color match. But using the Tamiya acrylics through my airbrush, it was the same bottle that I used for the airbrushing as I did for my touch-up painting, which meant my touch-up painting went on and it's a perfect color match. So that is a huge plus, and not something that I really appreciated in the abstract sense, you know, just in thought, until actually doing it in practice with this build. So as much as I hate winter, thank you winter for making it cold and making me try this experiment in doing this. So picked up a technique along the way, and you know, it's nice too, because you just have to buy your one bottle of paint, that's your color, and like I said, airbrush it, paint it, it's all gonna match. So that's really nice. I left it flat. I don't think at this scale anything in gloss looks realistic. I think it makes it look toy-like. Plus, it's a work truck. I don't see Ed the mechanic taking his Sunday to go outside and waste his day waxing his brute of a Chevy work truck, which looks meaner in flat tone anyway. So that is the painting. The decals, as I put them on, I just covered them with some of the Model Masters Acryl Dull Coat to blend them in. The doors I actually sprayed with Tamiya Flat Clear because I didn't want brush marks on that large of an area. And the license plates I did with the good old Future floor polish, Pledge floor polish, whatever, because they're license plates and I thought a little reflectivity or gloss on them would be appropriate. The turn signal markers, the teeny tiny ones up front here, the red ones in the back, that's a simple technique. I just did metallic silver undercoat and then came in with turn signal amber for the front ones, and for these red reflectors, just a red marker, and that's that. Same thing I've done with cars, and scale doesn't matter for that. It works just fine here. So let's take a look at some more detail. So as he comes around, I'll give him a stop. All right. Now I should say this while I'm looking at it, the only quote-unquote fit issue I had was with the doors that I noted during the build. I think that was due to when I assembled the cab, that maybe I introduced a little skew to its structure, but a little simple filing and scraping, and the doors popped right in, and no problem at all. You'll notice now the side mirror is on. That was the very last thing I did because it is held on by a little teeny joint, and it is rather fragile. So, engine detail has been notable during the overall build, and you can see that is really beautiful in there. I had mentioned early on, I believe I mentioned, of cutting out those side panels so that they too can be removed to see some more of that engine detail. I did not do that because I saw later in the instructions that you need those there intact to support that front fender. So that stayed on. And then this underbody, which is just beyond awesome, let's say, because you can study this and see how everything on this truck works. And I love that. I really love that. I mentioned during the Meng British Mark V tank, during the Ryefield Panther tank with the interior detail, that it's really a learning experience doing a build like those or like this, because you get to see how these mechanically, how these vehicles actually functioned, and this is no difference. You have all that driveline detail, the various drive shafts going up front to the winch, to the transfer case, to the two axles, linkage coming through to engage that drive line for the winch, even the little spring in the rear for the tow hook, you know, all the suspension detail, everything is there. I left that in semi-gloss black, even though the rest of the vehicle is in the dull coat, because I wanted some of that detail to be a little more apparent when you flip it over to check it out. So a choice, as I have often said, between trying to highlight or capture detail versus reality or authenticity of how a paint scheme would actually be. So that's what I did, and in its final form, there really is not much of that chassis and frame detail that you see, obviously, when it's on its wheels, but with that little bit of semi-gloss finish, I feel like at least it calls out to you to take another look. So that is the experience, the MiniArt truck. And just for reference, this was the MiniArt US Drivers kit. And as I said, I will have a separate video. Here's our driver figure right here. I will be posting a separate video regarding him and his placement in the vehicle. So that's it. So once again, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please do like, subscribe, hit the alert button, all that good YouTube stuff. And I will be back with another build, hopefully sooner rather than later. This guy is a time commitment, like a lot of these high detail kits. At 340 odd pieces, you are basically building 3 times the part count of a typical 125th car or truck model, so pickup truck model. So you do get a lot of building in this kit, and primarily when I do these kits, that's what I want. I want to build. Painting is nice. Obviously painting is the majority of what gives you final appearance, but I like to build, and there was a lot of great building in this. So yay, thumbs up, MiniArt, good job. So I'll just let it go around once more. And in the meantime, enjoy your hobby.